So how come I got out to the Alps? Well, all come down to a Facebook post that Andrew Craig shared from a guy called Matt Pepper, who was looking for a driver to do some retrieve work out in the Alps for himself and another pilot who were planning a Trans-Alps expedition. Got in touch with Matt and had a video call with him, eventually popped round and saw him at his house, and he started to understand that I could fly a little bit as well, so he managed to arrange a trip with myself and Phil Clark, who was also going out to the Alps with Matt to have a look at my flying out in Wales. So Matt actually arranged for another driver, his cousin Kevin, to come along as well on the trip, so that freed me up to actually fly with Matt and Phil, which I was massively looking forward to. And this is the first flight of the trip at Greifenburg, near to where Matt lives in Austria. So after the long drive down to Matt's from Dunkirk all the way down through Belgium, Holland, Germany, and then down to the bottom end of Austria, got to Matt's quite late. He gave me a beer and sat us down with a map of the Alps, which give us an idea of what the weather could be like and the wind direction for the various valleys. So this is a video of my first flight in Austria with Matt the day after I arrived at his place. So a little bit of a baptism of fire. Matt launched, no trouble at all, climbed out, got well above me. I had a few little issues on launch, had a couple of tangles that I had to get sorted out, eventually got airborne, and then drifted over to the sort of left-hand side of launch to where the hang gliders were flying. Probably made a bit of a mistake there, pushing too far out, and as it was, it took me about 15 or 20 minutes to get back above the height of launch before I started making a little bit of progress. Yes, so to give you a little bit of an idea of my paragliding experience, been flying just over 2 years. Got at this stage around about 400 hours flying experience. So I've done a lot of hours, mainly in the south of England, a couple of trips around the UK, Wales, Scotland, and the Lake District. Done one SIV out in Turkey, a week out there, and done a few weeks out in South Africa, flying XC, Porterville and Piketberg. So a little bit of flying experience, but this was my first time to the Alps, so extremely privileged to have Matt to fly with, who's lived out there on and off for about 18 years with a massive amount of experience of flying in the Alps. So quite a lucky person to be able to find somebody like this to be able to guide us in quite a tricky area. So the other guy on the trip, the other pilot, Phil Clark, comp pilot, again, somebody with a massive amount of experience, flying experience, was due out in a couple of days' time. He was going to fly up to Venice, where we were going to pick him up together with Kev, who is Matt's cousin, who was going to do the driving for us. So this gave me a couple of days' time before they arrived, hopefully to get a little bit of flying in before going off to other areas to fly in the Alps. So the day we were flying at Greifenburg, there were quite a number of hang gliders there. There was actually the Czech national championship, so there were about 40 or 50 hang gliders in the air, which is kind of good and bad. So good for showing us where the lift was, but also made the sky a little bit busier, so I had to be a little bit more careful with regards to observation. But on the whole, quite enjoyed flying alongside them, and made it quite a colourful place to be. So this part of the flight was first part of my learning curve, really, of flying in the Alps in these conditions. So started to realise that I was too far away from the hillside. So as soon as I started going down lower and tucking in a little bit towards the side of the mountain, I got a little bit more lift. So that was lesson one, not to push out too far. And at this stage, just starting to get back towards launch and making some progress at last. Yeah, the wing I'm flying here is my Ozone Alpina 4, which at this stage I'd had for about a couple of months and probably put 20 hours or so on it, feeling really comfortable with it as well, and enjoying flying it. Previously had Gin Explorer 2, which was okay, but this just felt a better wing and good to fly. And the harness I'm flying here is my Supair Delight 3. So for the whole flight I was on the radio to and from Matt, most of the time getting instructions from him as to what direction to go, what tactics to take to get into the thermals, stay in the thermals, how close to the hill to get to make the most of it. So really appreciated that from him. Took a little while to kind of adjust to these flying conditions, but eventually it all worked out, and it took me a little while, but got up to the height of where he was, up towards Cloud Base, and towards the end of the flight was really enjoying myself. Yeah, Matt had a few guests out over the previous few weeks. Owen Latham, who I know from the Southern Club, had been out flying with Matt a week or so prior to my arrival. And then just before that, Greg Hamilton was staying with Matt and done a number of flights from Greifenburg, and Matt was telling me how much he enjoyed the area. And I think you can probably see from the videos how beautiful it is, how scenic it is, and what an enjoyable place it is to fly. Yeah, from the earlier part of the video you could see the launch areas. We actually had to launch higher up the hill because of the hang gliders using the main launch for their competition. So we were up on the top launch, nice grassy launch, plenty of space up there, not too difficult to get away. So yeah, decent place to launch from. And the landing field, really big field, next to a campsite, bottom of the valley. Relatively wide area of the valley, so not too much difficulty with wind down there. So again, really good setup and a fantastic place to fly. So the plan for the rest of the trip, so once we picked up Phil and Kev from Venice, it was more than likely flying in Italy, and then really dependent on the weather. So we've got France, Switzerland, potentially Slovenia, as well as Austria available to fly. So just waiting to see what the weather would do in the next couple of weeks for our trip. Yeah, so as not to make the videos too long, I'm going to break them down into destinations that we went to. So this will be part one for Austria and Greifenburg, and then moving on to Bassano in Italy next. So I'd actually got 3 weeks planned away from home, driving down to Matt's initially, and then meeting up with Phil and Kev to do our Alps trip. And then once I finish with the guys there, I'll be moving on to Slovakia to meet up with my friend Milos, who'd invited me out there to fly at some of his flying sites. So eventually, after mincing around for a little bit and not really progressing too much, I found this piece of bare land where there weren't so many trees, was kicking off a few thermals. So that worked quite nicely, got us up a little bit, and started to make a little bit more progress up towards where Matt was at the top of the ridge. So I've been on the radio to and from Matt for the whole flight, but not actually seen him. So this was about the first point of the flight where I could actually see him in the distance, see his white advanced ULS glider at the end of the ridge. So all in all, thoroughly enjoyable flight, learned a hell of a lot from it. Matt being on the radio, helping me out and giving me some really good hints and tips was really helpful, massively helpful. Flew for just short of 3 hours, got up to my highest altitude I've ever been up to 9,300 feet. Never been up that high before, so that was good to do. Some beautiful scenery to fly around, so felt extremely lucky. So this was one of the last flights I used my GoPro on. I'd actually purchased a Insta360, but didn't really want to use it on the first flight of the trip, so I was going to keep that on my sleeve for future flights. So hopefully you look forward to seeing some of the flights using the different camera with, I think, probably better footage. Yeah, unfortunately the issue of using the GoPro on this flight meant the battery length wasn't too long, so hence the video is going to stop before I even caught up with Matt. So I was just short of where he was at this point along the top of the ridge, heading west. So eventually caught up with him, got some good flying in with him, some thermaling together before travelling back down east along the ridge, and then a nice transition across to a lake on the other side before heading back down and landing in the landing field. And then after that, nice meal at the pub and restaurant down by the campsite. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed part one of the trip in Greifenburg, Austria. Part two is going to be Bassano in Italy.